Good morning and welcome back to Reading Wikis for You, where we read the Wikipedia articles for you. And today we're going to be reading about the Green Bay Packers NFL football team. Now, as we're reading, make sure you put a comment down below as far as what articles you'd like to see us do next. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. The Green Bay Packers are a professional American football team based in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Packers compete in the National Football League as a member of the National Football Conference North Division. They are the third oldest franchise in the NFL, established in 1919, and are the only nonprofit, community-owned Major League professional sports team based in the United States. Since 1957, home games have been played at Lambeau Field. They hold the record for the most wins in NFL history. The Packers are the last of the, quote, small-town teams. They were common in the NFL during the league's early days of the 1920s and 30s. Founded in 1919 by Earl Curly Lambeau and George Whitney Calhoun, the franchise traces its lineage to other semi-professional teams in Green Bay dating back to 1896. Between 1919 and 1920, the Packers competed against other semi-pro clubs from around Wisconsin and the Midwest, before joining the American Professional Football Association, or APFA, the forerunner of today's NFL, in 1921. In 1933, the Packers began playing part of their home slate in Milwaukee until changes at Lambeau Field in 1995 made it more lucrative to stay in Green Bay full-time. Milwaukee is still considered a home media market for the team. Although Green Bay is the smallest major league professional sports market in North America, Forbes ranked the Packers as the world's 27th most valuable sports franchise in 2019, with a value of $2.63 billion. The Packers have won 13 league championships, the most in NFL history, with 9 pre-Super Bowl NFL titles and 4 Super Bowl victories. The Packers, under coach Vince Lombardi, won the first 2 Super Bowls in 1966 and 1967. They were the only NFL team to defeat the American Football League before the AFL-NFL merger. After Lombardi retired, the Super Bowl trophy was named for him, but the team struggled through the 1970s and 1980s. The team's performance shifted after acquiring Brett Favre in 1992, beginning a new ongoing era which has been characterized by consistent regular season success, with 23 playoff appearances and 2 Super Bowl wins in 1996 under head coach Mike Holmgren and 2010 under head coach Mike McCarthy. The Packers have the most wins, 826, and the second highest win-loss record, .571, in NFL history, including both regular season and playoff games. The Packers are long-standing adversaries of the Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, and Detroit Lions, who today form the NFL's NFC North Division, formerly known as the NFC Central Division. They have played more than 100 games against each of those teams and have a winning overall record against all of them, a distinction only shared with the Kansas City Chiefs, Dallas Cowboys, and Miami Dolphins. The Bears-Packers rivalry is one of the oldest rivalries in U.S. professional sports history, dating to 1921. History. Curly Lambeau years, 1919 to 1949. The Green Bay Packers were founded on August 11, 1919 by former high school football rivals Earl Curly Lambeau and George Whitney Calhoun. Lambeau solicited funds for uniforms from his employer, the Indian Packing Company, a meat packing company. He was given $500, or $9,100 today, for uniforms and equipment on the condition that the team be named after its sponsor. The Green Bay Packers have played in their original city longer than any other team in the NFL. On August 27, 1921, the Packers were granted a franchise in the American Professional Football Association, a new national pro football league that had been formed the previous year. The APFA changed its name to the National Football League a year later. Financial troubles plagued the team, and the franchise was forfeited within the year before Lambeau found new financial backers and regained the franchise the next year. These backers, known as the, quote, Hungry Five, formed the Green Bay Football Corporation. NFL champions 1929, 30, and 31. After a near miss in 1927, Lambeau's squad claimed the Packers' first NFL title in 1929 with an undefeated 12-0-1 campaign, behind a stifling defense which registered 8 shutouts. Green Bay would repeat as league champions in 1930 and 1931. Bettering teams from New York, Chicago, and throughout the league, with all-time greats and future Hall of Famers Mike Michalski, Johnny Blood McNally, Cal Hubbard, and Green Bay native Arnie Herber. Among the many impressive accomplishments of these years was the Packers' streak of 29 consecutive home games without defeat, an NFL record which still stands. NFL champions 1936, 1939, and 1944. The arrival of the end Don Houston from Alabama in 1935 gave Lambeau and the Packers the most feared and dynamic offensive weapon in the game. Credited with inventing pass patterns, Hudson would lead the league in receptions in 8 seasons and spur the Packers to NFL championships in 1936, 1939, and 1944. An Ironman, Hudson played both ways, leading the league in interceptions as a safety in 1940. Hudson claimed 18 NFL records when he retired in 1945, many of which still stand. In 1951, his number 14 was the first to be retired by the Packers, and he was inducted as a charter member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1963. After Hudson's retirement, Lambeau could not stop the Packers' slide. He purchased a large lodge near Green Bay for team members and families to live in. Rockwood Lodge was the home of the 1946 to 1949 Packers. The 1947 and 1948 seasons produced a record of 12, 10, and 1, and 1949 was even worse at 3 and 9. The lodge burned down on January 24, 1950, and insurance money paid for many of the Packers' debts. Curly Lambeau departed after the 1949 season. Gene Ronzani and Lyle Blackburn could not coach the Packers back to their former magic, even as a new stadium was unveiled in 1957. The losing would descend into the disastrous 1958 campaign under coach Ray Scooter McLean, whose lone 1-10-1 year at the helm is the worst in Packers' history. Vince Lombardi years, 1959 to 1967. Former New York Giants assistant Vince Lombardi was hired as Packers head coach and general manager on February 2, 1959. Few suspected the hiring represented the beginning of a remarkable immediate turnaround. Under Lombardi, the Packers would become the team of the 1960s, winning 5 championships over 7 years, including victories in the first 2 Super Bowls. During the Lombardi era, the stars of the Packers offense included Brett Starr, Jim Taylor, Carroll Dale, Paul Hornung as halfback and place kicker, Forrest Gregg, and Jerry Kramer. The defense included Willie Davis, Henry Jordan, Willie Wood, Ray Nitschke, Dave Robinson, and Herb Adderley. The Packers' first regular season game under Lombardi was on September 27, 1959, a 9-6 victory over the Chicago Bears in Green Bay. After winning their first 3, the Packers lost the next 5 before finishing strong by sweeping their final 4. The 7-5 record represented the Packers' first winning season since 1947, enough to earn rookie head coach Lombardi the NFL Coach of the Year. The next year, the Packers, led by Paul Hornung's 176 points, won the NFL West title and played in the NFL Championship against the Philadelphia Eagles at Philadelphia. In a seesaw game, the Packers trailed by only 4 points when All-Pro Eagle linebacker Chuck Bednarik tackled Jim Taylor just 9 yards short of the goal line as time expired. NFL champions 1961, 1962, and 1965. The Packers returned to the NFL championship game the following season and faced the New York Giants in the first league title game to be played in Green Bay. The Packers scored 24 second quarter points, including a championship record 19 by Paul Hornung, on a special loan from the Army, 1 touchdown, 4 extra points, and 3 field goals, powering the Packers to a 37-0 rout of the Giants, their first NFL championship since 1944. It was in 1961 that Green Bay became known as Titletown. The Packers stormed back into the 1962 season, jumping out to a 10-0 start on their way to a 13-1 season. This consistent level of success would lead to Lombardi's Packers becoming one of the most prominent teams of their era and to be featured as the face of the NFL on the cover of Time on December 21, 1962, as part of the magazine's cover story on the sport of the 60s. Shortly after Time's article, the Packers faced the Giants in a much more brutal championship game than the previous year, but the Packers prevailed on the kicking of Jerry Kramer and the determined running of Jim Taylor. The Packers defeated the Giants in New York 16-7. The 1963 team went 11-2-1, but finished second in the NFL West. The 1964 team went 8-5-1 and finished second in the NFL West. The Packers returned to the championship game in 1965 following a 2-year absence, when they defeated the Colts in a playoff for the Western Conference title. That game would be remembered for Don Chandler's controversial tying field goal in which the ball allegedly went wide right, but the officials signaled good. The 13-10 overtime win earned the Packers a trip to the NFL championship game, where Hornung and Taylor ran through the defending champion Cleveland Browns, helping the Packers win 23-12 to earn their third NFL championship under Lombardi and ninth overall. Goalpost uprights would be made taller the next year. Super Bowl I champions, 1966. The 1966 season saw the Packers led to the first ever Super Bowl by MVP quarterback Brett Starr. The team went 12-2, and as time wound down in the NFL championship against the Dallas Cowboys, the Packers clung to a 34-27 lead. Dallas had the ball on the Packers' 2-yard line, it threatening to tie the game, but on fourth down, the Packers' Tom Brown intercepted Don Meredith's pass in the end zone to seal the win. The team crowned its season by rolling over the AFL champion Kansas City Chiefs 35-10 in Super Bowl I. Super Bowl II champions, 1967. The 1967 season was the last for Lombardi as Packers head coach. The NFL championship game, the rematch of the 1966 contest against Dallas, became indelibly known as the Ice Bowl as a result of the brutally cold conditions at Lambeau Field. Still the coldest NFL game ever played, it remains one of the most famous football games at any level in the history of the sport. With 16 seconds left, Brett Starr's touchdown on a quarterback sneak brought the Packers a 21-17 victory and their still unequaled third straight NFL championship. They then won Super Bowl II with a 33-14 victory over the Oakland Raiders. Lombardi stepped down as head coach after the game, and Phil Bankston was named his successor. Lombardi remained as general manager for one season but left in 1969 to become head coach and minority owner of the Washington Redskins. After Lombardi died of cancer on September 3, 1970, the NFL renamed the Super Bowl trophy the Vince Lombardi Trophy in recognition of his accomplishments with the Packers. The city of Green Bay renamed Highland Avenue in his honor in 1968, placing Lambeau Field at 1265 Lombardi Avenue ever since. For about a quarter century after Lombardi's departure, the Packers had relatively little on-field success. In the 24 seasons from 1968 to 1991, they had only 5 seasons with a winning record, one being the shortened 1982 strike season. They appeared in the playoffs twice with a 1-2 record. The period saw 5 different head coaches, Phil Bankston, Dan Devine, Bart Starr, Forrest Gregg, and Lindy Infante, 2 of whom, Starr and Gregg, were Lombardi's era stars, while Bankston was a former Packer coach. Each led the Packers to a worse record than his predecessor. Poor personnel decisions were rife, notoriously the 1974 trade by acting general manager Dan Devine, which sent 5 1975 or 1976 draft picks, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a third, to the Los Angeles Rams for aging quarterback John Hadl, who would spend only 1.5 seasons in Green Bay. Another came in the 1989 NFL Draft when offensive lineman Tony Mandarich was taken with the second overall pick ahead of future Hall of Fame inductees Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion Sanders. Though highly rated by nearly every professional scout at the time, Mandarich's performance failed to meet expectations, earning him ESPN's ranking as the third biggest sports flop in the last 25 years. The Packers' performance in the 1970s, 1980s, and early 1990s led to a shakeup, with Ron Wolf hired as general manager and given full control of the team's football operations to start the 1991 season. Mike Holmgren years, 1992 to 1998. In 1992, Wolf hired San Francisco 49ers offensive coordinator Mike Holmgren as the Packers' new head coach. Soon afterward, Wolf acquired quarterback Brett Favre from the Atlanta Falcons for a first-round pick. Favre got the Packers their first win of the 1992 season, stepping in for injured quarterback Don Majkowski and leading a comeback over the Cincinnati Bengals. He started the following week, a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and never missed another start for Green Bay through the end of the 2007 season. He would go on to break the record for consecutive starts by an NFL quarterback, starting 297 consecutive games, including stints with the New York Jets and Minnesota Vikings, with the streak finally coming to an end late in the 2010 season. The Packers had a 9-7 record in 1992 and began to turn heads around the league when they signed perhaps the most prized free agent in NFL history in Reggie White on the defense in 1993. White believed that Wolf, Holmgren, and Favre had the team heading in the right direction with a, quote, total commitment to winning. With White on board, the Packers made it to the second round of the playoffs during both the 1993 and 1994 seasons, but lost their second-round matches to their playoff rival, the Dallas Cowboys, playing in Dallas on both occasions. In 1995, the Packers won the NFC Central Division Championship for the first time since 1972. After a home playoff 37-20 win against Favre's former team, the Atlanta Falcons, the Packers defeated the defending Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers 27-17 in San Francisco on the road to advance to the NFC Championship game, where they lost again to the Dallas Cowboys 38-27. Super Bowl 31 champions 1996. In 1996, the Packers' turnaround was complete. The team posted a league-best 13-3 record in the regular season, dominating the competition and securing home field advantage through the playoffs. They were ranked number 1 in offense, with Brett Favre leading the way, number 1 in defense, with Reggie White as the leader of the defense, and number 1 in special teams, with former Heisman Trophy winner Desmond Howard returning punts and kickoffs for touchdowns. After relatively easy wins against the San Francisco 49ers in a muddy 35-14 beatdown and Carolina Panthers 30-13, the Packers advanced to the Super Bowl for the first time in 29 years. In Super Bowl 31, Green Bay defeated the New England Patriots 35-21 to win their 12th championship. Desmond Howard was named MVP of the game for his kickoff return for a touchdown that ended the Patriots' bid for a comeback. Then Packers president Bob Harlan credited Wolf, Holmgren, Favre, and White for ultimately changing the fortunes of the organization and turning the Green Bay Packers into a model NFL franchise. A 2007 panel of football experts at ESPN ranked the 1996 Packers the 6th greatest team ever to play in the Super Bowl. The following season, the Packers recorded another 13-3 record and won their second consecutive NFC championship. After defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-7 and San Francisco 49ers 23-10 in the playoffs, the Packers returned to the Super Bowl as an 11.5-point favorite. The team ended up losing in an upset to John Elway and the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 32 by the score of 31-24. In 1998, the Packers went 11-5 and met the San Francisco 49ers in the first round of the NFC playoffs. It was the 4th consecutive year these teams had met in the playoffs and the 6th overall contest since the 1995 season. The Packers had won all previous games, and the media speculated that another 49ers loss would result in the dismissal of San Francisco head coach Steve Mariucci. Unlike the previous playoff matches, this game was hotly contested, with the teams frequently exchanging leads. With 4:19 left in the fourth quarter, Brett Favre and the Packers embarked on an 89-yard drive, which concluded with a Favre touchdown pass to receiver Antonio Freeman. This play appeared to give Green Bay the victory, but San Francisco quarterback Steve Young led the 49ers on an improbable touchdown drive, which culminated when Terrell Owens caught Young's pass between several defenders to give the 49ers a lead with 3 seconds remaining. Afterward, the game was mired in controversy. Many argued that during the 49ers' game-winning drive, Niners receiver Jerry Rice fumbled the ball, but officials stated he was down by contact. Television replays confirmed the fumble, but referees were unable to review the play. The next season, the NFL reinstituted an instant replay system. In the end, this game turned out to be the end of an era in Green Bay. Days later, Mike Holmgren left the Packers to become vice president, general manager, and head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Much of Holmgren's coaching staff went with him, and Reggie White also retired after the season, but later played one season for the Carolina Panthers in 2000. In 1999, the team struggled to find an identity after the departure of so many of the individuals responsible for their Super Bowl run. Ray Rhodes was hired in 1999 as the team's new head coach. Rhodes had served around the league as a highly regarded defensive coordinator and more recently experienced moderate success as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles from 1995 to 1998. Ron Wolf believed that Rhodes' experience and player-friendly demeanor would fit nicely in Green Bay's veteran locker room, but Rhodes was fired after one 8-8 season. Wolf visited team practice late in the 1999 season and believed that players had become too comfortable with Rhodes' style and said the atmosphere resembled a country club. In 2000, Wolf replaced Rhodes with Mike Sherman. Sherman had never been a head coach at any level of football and was relatively unknown in NFL circles. He had only coached in professional football for 3 years, starting as the Packers' tight ends coach in 1997 and 1998. In 1999, he followed Mike Holmgren to Seattle and became the Seahawks offensive coordinator, although Sherman did not call the plays during the games. Despite Sherman's apparent anonymity, Wolf was blown away in the interview process by the coach's organizational skills and attention to detail. Sherman's inaugural season started slowly, but the Packers won their final 4 games to achieve a 9-7 record. Brett Favre praised the atmosphere Sherman had cultivated in the Green Bay's locker room, and fans were optimistic about the team's future. In the offseason, however, Wolf suddenly announced his own resignation as general manager to take effect after the April 2001 draft. Packers' president Bob Harlan was surprised by Wolf's decision and felt unsure of how to replace him. Harlan preferred the structure Green Bay had employed since 1991, a general manager who ran football operations and hired a subservient head coach. But with the momentum and locker room chemistry that was built during the 2000 season, Harlan was reluctant to bring in a new individual with potentially different philosophy. Wolf recommended that Harlan give the job to Sherman. Though Harlan was wary of the structure and principle, he agreed with Wolf that it was the best solution. In 2001, Sherman assumed the duties of both general manager and head coach. From 2001 to 2004, Sherman coached the Packers to respectable regular season success, led by the spectacular play of Brett Favre, Amon Green, and a formidable offensive line, but Sherman's teams faltered in the playoffs. Before 2003, the Packers had never lost a home playoff game since the NFL instituted a postseason in 1933. They were 13-0 with 11 of the wins at Lambeau and 2 more in Milwaukee. That ended in January 4th, 2003, when the Atlanta Falcons defeated the Packers 27-7 in an NFC wildcard game. The Packers would also lose at home in the playoffs to the Minnesota Vikings 2 years later. By the end of the 2004 season, the Packers' team depth appeared to be diminishing. Sherman also seemed overworked and reportedly had trouble communicating with players on the practice field with whom he was also negotiating contracts. Harlan felt the dual roles were too much for one man to handle and removed Sherman from the general manager position in early 2005 while retaining him as head coach. Harlan hired the Seattle Seahawks Vice President of Operations, Ted Thompson, as the new Executive Vice President, General Manager, and Director of Football Operations. The relationship between Thompson and Sherman appeared strained, as Thompson immediately began rebuilding Green Bay's roster following a dismal 4-12 season. Thompson fired Sherman. Mike McCarthy years, 2006 to 2018. In 2006, Thompson hired Mike McCarthy, former offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers and New Orleans Saints, as head coach. McCarthy had served as quarterbacks coach for the Packers in 1999. In McCarthy's debut year coaching the Packers, the team began with a 4-8 record. Then Brett Favre sustained injuries, as did backup quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Despite the injuries, McCarthy coached the team to 4 consecutive wins, finishing with an 8-8 record. After missing the playoffs in 2006, Favre announced he would return for the 2007. It would be one of his best. The Packers finished 13-3 and earning a first-round bye in the playoffs. The Packers' passing offense finished second in the NFC, behind the Dallas Cowboys, and third in the league. Running back Ryan Grant became the featured back in Green Bay. In the divisional playoff round, in a snowstorm, the Packers beat the Seattle Seahawks 42-20. Grant rushed for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Favre tossed an additional 3 touchdown passes to receiver Donald Driver, as well as a snowball in celebration. In January 20th, 2008, Green Bay appeared in their first NFC Championship game in 10 years, facing the New York Giants. The game was lost 23-20 on a field goal by Lawrence Tynes. This would be Favre's final game as a Packer. McCarthy coached the NFC team during the 2008 Pro Bowl in Hawaii. In December 2007, Ted Thompson was signed to a 5-year contract extension with the Packers. On February 5, 2008, McCarthy signed a 5-year contract extension. On March 4th, Favre announced his retirement. Within 5 months, however, he filed for reinstatement. On August 6, it was announced that Favre was traded to the New York Jets for a conditional draft pick in 2009. The Packers began their 2008 season with their 2005 first-round draft pick, quarterback Aaron Rodgers, under center, as the first quarterback other than Favre to start for the Packers in 16 years. Rodgers played well in his first year, throwing for over 4,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. However, injuries plagued the Packers' defense as they lost 7 close games by 4 points or fewer, finishing with a 6-10 record. 8 assistant coaches who were dismissed, including Bob Sanders, the team's defensive coordinator, who was replaced by Dom Capers. In March 2009, the organization assured fans that Favre's jersey number would be retired, but not during the 2009 season. In April 2009, the Packers selected nose tackle B.J. Raji of Boston College as the team's first pick in the draft. The team then traded 3 draft picks for another first-round pick, selecting linebacker Clay Matthews III. During the 2009 NFL season, 2 matchups between the franchise and Favre were highly anticipated after Favre's arrival with division rival Vikings in August. The first encounter took place in Week 4, a Monday Night Football game that broke TV audience records. This scheduling was made possible when baseball commissioner and Packer Board of Directors member Bud Selig forced baseball's Minnesota Twins to play 2 games within 12 hours. The Vikings won 30-23. Favre threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and had a passer rating of 135. The teams met again in Week 8, Favre leading the Vikings to a second win, 38-26, in Green Bay. Rodgers was heavily pressured in both games, being sacked 14 times total, but still played well, throwing 5 touchdowns. The next week, the Packers were upset by the winless Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Green Bay won 7 of their last 8 games, including their 16th regular season finale from 17 seasons, and earning an NFC wildcard playoff bid with an 11-5 regular season record. Rodgers became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for at least 4,000 yards in each of his first 2 seasons as a starter. Quarterback Charles Woodson won NFL Defensive Player of the Year honors. His 9 interceptions were more than the 8 collected by all Packer opponents. The season ended with an overtime loss in a wild-card round shootout at the Arizona Cardinals 51-45. It was the second time McCarthy led the Packers to the postseason. While they were not as successful as their 90s counterparts in the postseason, the 2000s were by no means a dark time for the Packers. The team finished the decade with the 5th highest winning percentage. Super Bowl 45 champions, 2010. The team lost Johnny Jolly to a season-long suspension after he violated NFL drug policy. Their running core suffered a blow when our running back Ryan Grant sustained a season-ending ankle injury in Week 1. By the end of the season, the team had 16 people on injured reserve, including 7 starters. Key injuries did not stop McCarthy's team from finishing the regular season with a 10-6 record. In Week 7, the team faced the Minnesota Vikings, then led by former Packers quarterback Brett Favre. Green Bay beat Favre's new team 28-24 when Favre's final pass to Randy Moss in the end zone flew incomplete. In Week 17, the Packers clinched their playoff berth with a 10-3 victory over the Chicago Bears at Lambeau Field, aided in large part by Nick Collins' interception of Jay Cutler's throw that allowed Green Bay to run out the clock. The Packers' 10-6 record allowed them to clinch the number 6 seed in the NFC playoffs. They first faced Philadelphia, winning 21-16. In the divisional round, they defeated number 1 seed Atlanta 48-21. They then played the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in the NFC Championship game, only the second playoff meeting between the two storied rivals. Packers won 21-14 to move on to Super Bowl 45, having secured a 3-0 record in the postseason. On the evening before the Super Bowl, McCarthy had each player fitted for a championship ring. Aware of the motivational tactic, team president Mark Murphy instructed his organization to begin designing the ring. The following day, on February 6, 2011, they defeated AFC champion Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25, becoming the first number 6 seed from the NFC to win a Super Bowl. It was the first time the Packers had won the Lombardi Trophy since 1996. Aaron Rodgers was named Super Bowl MVP. During Super Bowl 45, McCarthy's team initially enjoyed a comfortable 21-3 lead over the Steelers. Then, Charles Woodson had to leave the game with a broken collarbone, and the Steelers' Hines Ward found the end zone to make the score 21-10 by halftime. During the third quarter, Pittsburgh scored 7 more points. In the fourth quarter, Green Bay's Clay Matthews tackled Pittsburgh's Rashard Mendenhall, and Desmond Bishop recovered the ball for a key turnover. In 2011, the Packers won their first 13 games, eventually finishing the season 15-1, a franchise record for wins in the season tied for the second most regular season wins in NFL history, behind only the 2007 Patriots, who went 16-0. Aaron Rodgers was named the NFL's MVP, his first such award. McCarthy's offensive strategies aided Rodgers in throwing for 4,643 yards and 45 touchdowns. These strategies propelled the Packers to lead the NFL in scoring that year. Despite receiving home field advantage, Green Bay lost their first postseason game to eventual Super Bowl 46 champion New York Giants 37-20. Finishing the 2012 season with an 11-5 record and their second straight division title, the Packers beat the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC wildcard round 24-10, but lost in the playoffs to the eventual NFC champion San Francisco 49ers by 45-31. The Packers offense finished the season 5th in points. Rodgers passed for 4,295 yards. The Packers topped the first ever AP Pro 32 rankings, a new pro football version of the AP Top 25 college football and basketball polls. In 2013, the Packers started 5-2, leading up to a Week 9 matchup against the Bears. It was in that game that the Packers lost Rodgers to a broken collarbone. Rodgers missed the next 6 games, during which the club would go 2, 3, and 1 under 3 different quarterbacks. Despite having a 7-7-1 record, the Packers were still in a position to win the NFC North Division if they were able to win their final game. With Rodgers returning, the Packers managed to beat the Bears in a Week 9 rematch, 33-28. Finishing at 8-7-1, the Packers won their division and were awarded a home playoff game. It was the 5th consecutive time that McCarthy led his team to a playoff appearance. However, the Packers would lose to the 49ers 20-23 in the playoffs. The Packers recorded their 700th victory against the Bears in Week 4 of 2014. The team went undefeated at home for the first time since the 2011 season. They led the league in scoring with 486 points. 2014 marked the first time since 2009 that the team had a 4,000-yard passer, 2 1,000-yard receivers, and a 1,000-yard rusher. McCarthy led an offense that finished 6th in the league for total offense. After winning against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 16, McCarthy, 99 wins, passed Hall of Famer Vince Lombardi, 98, on the all-time wins list for the Packers. Overall, the team went 12-4, clinching a 4th consecutive NFC North Division title, making the playoffs for the 6th straight season, tying a franchise record. The Packers beat the Cowboys in the divisional round, advancing to the NFC Championship to face the Seattle Seahawks. After leading throughout most of regulation, the Packers lost 28-22 in an overtime rally by Seattle. Rodgers was named the league's most valuable player for the second time. During Week 2 of the 2015 preseason against the Pittsburgh Steelers, wide receiver Jordy Nelson caught an 8-yard pass from Aaron Rodgers but fell to the turf. Nelson had torn his ACL. He would remain inactive for the rest of 2015. Even without Nelson, the Packers managed to get off to a 6-0 start, but then lost 4 of their next 5 games, falling to 7-4. On December 3rd against the Detroit Lions, the Packers quickly fell to a 20-0 deficit going into halftime. Green Bay started to make a comeback in the second half thanks to a touchdown by Davante Adams and a 27-yard touchdown by Rodgers to narrow the game to 23-21. The Packers then got the ball back with 23 seconds left. While attempting a lateral play, Rodgers was sacked with no time remaining, but then a flag was thrown for a face mask penalty on Detroit. The Packers now had one more untimed play, which Rodgers threw a 61-yard Hail Mary touchdown to tight end Richard Rodgers. It was the longest Hail Mary touchdown pass thrown in NFL history. Up until Week 14, McCarthy delegated play calling duties to associate head coach Tom Clements. However, the team's struggling offense made McCarthy decide to take back play calling duties. During that first game that McCarthy resumed play calling, the Packers ran the ball for 230 yards in 44 carries. Green Bay then finished the season 10-6 and second in the NFC North behind the Minnesota Vikings. The Packers beat the Washington Redskins in the NFC wildcard game to advance to the divisional round with the Arizona Cardinals. A similar play to tie the game against the Cardinals happened between Aaron Rodgers and Jeff Janis. Janis caught a 41-yard touchdown which sent the game into overtime. However, the Packers fell to Arizona 26-20, ending their season. After a 4-6 start to the 2017 season, the Packers went on a 6-game winning streak to finish their regular season with a 10-6 record. The team clinched the NFC North for the first time in 6 years. They routed the New York Giants 38-13 in the wild-card round of the playoffs and upset the top-seeded Dallas Cowboys 34-31 in the divisional round, but their season ended when they were beaten by the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship game 44-21. The Packers began the 2017 regular season with a 4-2 record. On October 15th, during a Week 6 game, Rodgers was driven to the ground by Minnesota Vikings linebacker Anthony Barr. Rodgers suffered a broken collarbone, and the Packers placed him on an injured reserve with the stipulation that he could return, especially if the injury healed quickly and the Packers were still in playoff contention. Rodgers did return for a Week 15 game against the Carolina Panthers on December 17th, but the Packers were eliminated from the playoff hunt after a 31-24 loss. The team placed Rodgers back on an injured reserve, which prompted several teams to complain that the Packers had violated rules about reactivating injured players. During Rodgers' absence, backup quarterback Brett Hundley stepped into the starting role for the first time in his professional career, but struggled to replicate Rodgers' success, despite a Pro Bowl caliber season by receiver Davante Adams. In a 23-0 loss to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 11, the Packers suffered their first shutout at Lambeau Field in 11 years. The Packers finished the season at 7-9, missing the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Off the field, the Packers organization opened the Titletown district adjacent to Lambeau Field. This shopping, entertainment, and restaurant district includes a public plaza, park, and commercial businesses. In 2018, the Packers again failed to qualify for the playoffs, finishing third in the NFC North with a record of 6-9-1, following a Week 13 loss to the Cardinals. McCarthy was released as a head coach, replaced by offensive coordinator Joe Philbin on an interim basis. McCarthy left having tallied a 125-77-2 regular season record, as well as a postseason record of 10-8. His total record with the Packers was 135-85-2. McCarthy had brought the team to 9 playoff berths and a Super Bowl win. Following the season, Matt LaFleur, the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans the prior season, was hired as the Packers' new head coach. Matt LaFleur years since 2019. Under first-year head coach Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers opened the season by defeating the Chicago Bears in the season's opening game, the first time since 2003 that the league-wide kickoff game did not feature the defending Super Bowl champions, with the Packers and Bears being selected for their historic rivalry in the NFL's 100th season. The Packers returned to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, finishing with a record of 13-3, and securing a first-round bye as the NFC's second seed. They defeated the Seattle Seahawks 28-23 in the NFC divisional round to advance to the NFC Championship game, where they were defeated 37-20 by the San Francisco 49ers. In 2020, the Green Bay Packers won the NFC North Division for the second consecutive year. They also earned a first-round bye with the top seed in the NFC. They defeated the Los Angeles Rams 32-18 in the divisional round, but fell to the underdog Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship, their fourth straight loss in the game in 5 appearances under Rodgers. Rodgers won his third MVP award during the season. The next year, they clinched the top seed in the NFC again with a 13-4 record before losing 13-10 to the 49ers in the divisional round. The special teams unit was consistently the worst in the NFL during the season, though their defense was noted as an improvement from the previous seasons. The special teams was especially costly in the postseason game as a field goal attempt and punt were both blocked, the latter of which the 49ers returned for a touchdown. The defense did not allow any touchdowns in that game, as the only other points the 49ers scored were off 2 field goals. Matt LaFleur became the first coach to have 3 straight 13-win seasons, however none of them ended up with a trip to the Super Bowl. For his performance in the season, Aaron Rodgers won his 4th MVP award, the second most for any quarterback, only behind Peyton Manning, who has 5. In the 2022 season, the Green Bay Packers struggled and were eliminated from advancing to the NFL's wildcard playoffs when they lost their last regular season game 20-16 to the Detroit Lions. This was the first time the team missed the playoffs during Matt LaFleur's coaching stint. The team finished with an 8-9 record. In the 2023 season, was the first without longtime quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who was traded to the New York Jets during the offseason. Jordan Love, who was drafted to the Green Bay Packers in 2020, took over as starting quarterback. The team finished with a 9-8 record, which secured second place in the NFC North Division and the 7th seed in the NFC. The Packers defeated the second seed Dallas Cowboys 48-32 in their wildcard matchup, becoming the first 7th seed team to win a playoff game. The Packers would go on to lose to the first seed San Francisco 49ers 24-21 in the divisional round. Following the loss, the team announced that the defensive coordinator Joe Barry would not return next season. In 2024, the Packers finished the season with a record of 11-6. This was thanks in part due to some new additions to the team, including running back Josh Jacobs and safety Xavier McKinney, who were both named to the Pro Bowl that year. New backup quarterback Malik Willis, who was acquired in a trade with the Tennessee Titans during the preseason, filled in and won multiple games for an injured Jordan Love. Some other additions to the team came in the coaching department, including new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley and former New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh, who joined the team as offensive assistant. Shortly after being fired by the Jets following a 2-3 start. Despite their record, however, the Packers only managed to finish in 3rd place in the NFC North. Both the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings finished above them at 1st and 2nd with records of 15-2 and 14-3 respectively. Their record was still good enough to earn the 7th seed in the NFC for the second year in a row. In their wildcard matchup, the Packers were defeated by 2nd-seeded Philadelphia Eagles with a final score of 22-10. Community ownership. The Packers are the only community-owned franchise in North America's 4 traditional major leagues. Rather than being the property of an individual, partnership, or corporate entity, they are held by stockholders, more than 537,000 in total as of 2022. No one is allowed to hold more than 200,000 shares. It is this broad-based community support and nonprofit structure which has kept the team in Green Bay for nearly a century, even though it is the smallest market in North American professional sports. The city of Green Bay has a population of only 107,395 as of the 2020 census, and 600,000 in its television market, significantly less than the average NFL figures. The team, however, has long had an extended fan base throughout Wisconsin and parts of the Midwest, thanks in part to playing 1 preseason and 3 regular season home games each year in Milwaukee through 1995. It was only when baseball-only Miller Park preempted football that the Packers' home slate became played entirely in Green Bay. As of 2021, There have been 6 stock sales to fund Packer operations over the team history, beginning with $5,000 being raised through 1,000 shares offered at $5 apiece in 1923. The latest was in November 2021, where they sold almost 200,000 shares. The original Articles of Incorporation for the Green Bay Football Corporation, enacted in 1923, specified that should the franchise be sold, any post-expenses money would have gone to the Sullivan Wallen Post of the American Legion to build a proper soldiers' memorial. This stipulation was included to ensure that there could never be any financial inducement for shareholders to move the club from Green Bay. At the November 1997 annual meeting, shareholders voted to change the beneficiary from the Sullivan Wallen Post to the Green Bay Packers Foundation, which makes donations to many charities and institutions throughout Wisconsin. Even though it is referred to as, quote, common stock in corporate offering documents, a share of Packer stock does not share the same rights traditionally associated with common or preferred stock. It does not include an equity interest, does not pay dividends, cannot be traded, has no securities and law protection, and brings no season ticket purchase privileges. All shareholders receive are voting rights, an invitation to the corporation's annual meeting, and an opportunity to buy exclusive shareholder-only merchandise. Shares of stock cannot be resold except back to the team for a fraction of the original price. While new shares can be given as gifts, transfers are technically only allowed between immediately family members once ownership has been established. Green Bay is the only team with this form of ownership structure in the NFL, which does not comply with current league rules stipulating a maximum of 32 owners per team, with one holding a minimum of 30% stake. The Packers Corporation was grandfathered when the NFL's current ownership policy was established in the 1980s. As a publicly held nonprofit, the Packers are also the only American Major League sports franchise to release its financial balance sheet every year. Board of Directors. Green Bay Packers Incorporated is governed by a 7-member executive committee elected from a 45-member board of directors. It consists of a president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and 3 members at large. Only the president is compensated. Responsibilities include directing corporate management, approving major capital expenditures, establishing broad policy, and monitoring management performance. The team's elected president normally represents the Packers in NFL owners' meetings. During his time as coach, Vince Lombardi generally represented the team at league meetings in his role as general manager, except at owners-only meetings where President Dominic Olenichak appeared. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Green Bay Packers Foundation. The team created the Green Bay Packers Foundation in December 1986. It assists in a wide variety of activities and programs benefiting education, civic affairs, health services, human services, and youth-related programs. At the team's 1997 annual stockholders meeting, the foundation was designated in place of a Sullivan Wallen Post Soldiers Memorial as the recipient of any residual assets upon the team's sale or dissolution. Fan base. The Packers have an exceptionally loyal fan base, regardless of team performance. Every game played in Green Bay, preseason, regular season, and playoffs, has been sold out since 1960. Despite the Packers having by far the smallest local TV market, the team consistently ranks as one of the most popular in the NFL. They also have one of the longest season ticket waiting lists in professional sports, 140,000 names long, more than there are seats at Lambeau Field. The average wait is said to be over 30 years, but with only 90 or so tickets turned over annually, it would be 955 years before the newest name on the list got theirs. As a result, season tickets are willed to next of kin, and newborns are placed optimistically on the waiting list. Packers fans are often referred to as cheeseheads, a nickname for Wisconsin residents reflecting the state's bountiful cheese production first leveled as an insult at a 1987 game between the Chicago White Sox and Milwaukee Brewers. Instead, it came to be a statewide source of pride, and particularly since 1994, has been embraced by Packers fans. Bright orange triangular cheesehead hats are a fixture wherever the team plays. During training camp in the summer months, held outside the Don Houston Center, young Packers fans can bring their bikes and have their favorite players ride them from the locker room to practice at Ray Nitschke Field. This old tradition began around the time of Lambeau Field's construction in 1957. Gary Knaflick, a Packers end at the time, said, "I think it was just that kids wanted us to ride their bikes. I can remember kids saying, 'Hey, ride my bike.'" The team holds an annual scrimmage called Family Night, typically an intra-squad affair at Lambeau Field. During 2004 and 2005, sellout crowds of over 60,000 fans showed up. with an all-time mark of 62,492 set in 2005 when the Buffalo Bills appeared. In August 2008, ESPN.com ranked Packers fans as the second best in the NFL. The team initially finished tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who finished ahead of the Packers, as having the best fans, but the tie was broken by ESPN's own John Clayton, a Pittsburgh native. Branding. Nickname. Needing to outfit his new squad, team's founder Curly Lambeau solicited funds from his employer, the Indian Packing Company. He was given $500 for uniforms and equipment in return for the team being named for its sponsor. An early newspaper article referred to the fledglings as the Indians, but by the time they played their first game, Packers had taken hold. Indian Packing was purchased in 1920 by Acme Packing Company. Acme continued to support the team, which played its first NFL season with Acme Packers emblazoned on its jerseys. Team colors. Lambeau, a Notre Dame alumnus, borrowed its Irish's navy blue and gold team colors, much as George Halas borrowed his Illinois alma maters for the Chicago Bears. As a result, the early Packers were often referred to as the Bays or the Blues, and even occasionally as the Big Bay Blues. By 1950, Green Bay replaced navy blue with Kelly green, but kept what was by then a lighter shade of athletic gold. Navy blue was kept as a secondary color, seen primarily on sideline capes, but was quietly dropped on all official materials shortly after that. In 1958, this Kelly green was replaced by a darker hunter green, and it and athletic gold have served as the team colors since. The team's current uniform combination of forest green or white jerseys and metallic gold pants was adopted soon after Vince Lombardi arrived in 1959. However, to celebrate the NFL's 75th anniversary in 1994, the Packers joined in a league-wide donning of throwback jerseys back to the navy blue and gold. The team would go throwback again for 2 Thanksgiving Day games against the Detroit Lions in blue and gold 1930s era uniforms in 2001 and 1960s green and gold, only slightly different from the current ones, in 2003. Logo. In 1951, the team finally stopped wearing leather helmets, adopting the metallic gold plastic headgear it has used ever since. The oval G logo was added in 1961 when Lombardi asked Packers equipment manager Gerald "Dad" Brazier to design a logo. Brazier tasked his assistant, St. Norbert College art student John Gordon. Satisfied with a football-shaped letter G, the pair presented it to Lombardi, who then approved the addition. Tiki Barber falsely reported it to stand for greatness without a reliable source to back up his claims. Other reputable media outlets published similar stories using Barber's false claim as a source. The Packers' assistant director of PR and corporate communications had the following to say: "There's nothing in our history that suggests there's any truth to this. The Packers Hall of Fame archivist said the same thing," unquote. The team used several different logos before 1961, but the G is the only logo that has ever appeared on the helmet. The Packers hold the trademark on the G logo and have granted limited permission to other organizations to utilize a similar logo, such as the University of Georgia and Grambling State University, in addition to the city of Green Bay itself as part of its civic logo. Adopted in 1964, the Georgia G, though different in design and color, was similar to the Packers G. Then Georgia head coach Vince Dooley thought it best to clear the use of Georgia's new emblem with the Packers. Uniform variation. While several NFL teams choose to wear white jerseys at home early in the season due to white's ability to reflect the late summer sun rays, the Packers have done so only twice during the opening games of the 1989 season. In 2016, the Packers debuted their Color Rush uniform wearing white pants and socks with a white uniform. This set has been worn 5 times, 4 of them at home and 2 against the Chicago Bears. In 2024, the all-white Color Rush uniform would be paired with a new alternate white helmet, which is essentially the primary helmet minus the gold elements. Although alternate gold jerseys with green numbers are sold on a retail basis, the team currently has no plans to introduce such a jersey to be used in actual games. During the 2010 season, the Packers paid tribute to their historical roots with a throwback jersey modeled after that worn by the club in 1929 during its first championship season. The jersey was navy blue with a gold circle and navy numbers, again making the Packers the Blues. These were then changed in 2015 to the navy blue throwback worn from 1937 to 1949, featuring gold shoulders and numbers. In 2021, the Packers changed the throwback thirds to an all-green design, resembling the uniforms worn from 1950 to 1953. Originally, the Packers wore brown helmets with the throwbacks, but in 2013 they started wearing their gold helmets without any decals due to the then implementation of the NFL's one-shell rule. This rule has been abolished in 2022. As a result, they changed their throwbacks in both 2015 and 2021 to properly recreate those original uniforms which had gold helmets with them. In 2025, the Packers unveiled a 1923 throwback navy blue uniform with dark gold numbers, tan pants, and navy socks, featuring a special alternate helmet that was meticulously hand-painted to simulate the leather helmets of the era. The helmets would be equipped with navy blue face masks. Upon the NFL's switch of uniform suppliers in 2012 to Nike from Reebok, the Packers refused any changes to their uniform in any way outside of the required supplier's logo and new league uniform logos, declining all of Nike's Elite 51 enhancements, including retaining the traditional striped collar of the jersey rather than Nike's new collar design. However, in 2025, the Packers' new 1923 throwback uniform became the first to adopt Nike's Vapor Fuse template. Rivalries. Divisional. Chicago Bears. The Packers and Chicago Bears have been rivals since their team's inception in 1920, becoming one of the oldest and most storied rivalries in the league's history. The Packers currently lead the series 107, 95, and 6, and the teams have met twice in the postseason. The Bears won the 1941 meeting 33-14 and eventually defeated the New York Giants in the 1941 NFL Championship game, and the Packers won the 2011 meeting 21-14 en route to a Super Bowl 45 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The team's first meeting was a victory for the Bears, known as the Staleys at the time, in 1921 in a shutout 20-0. The Packers claimed their first win over the Bears in 1925, 14-10. The 1924 matchup, which ended in a 3-0 win for Chicago, was notable for featuring the first ever ejection of players in a game in NFL history, as Frank Haney of the Bears and Walter Voss of the Packers were ejected for punching each other. The rivalry also featured one of the last successful fair catch kicks in 1968, when Bears kicker Mac Percival kicked the game-winning field goal. As of the 2024 season, the Packers lead the all-time series 108-96-6. Minnesota Vikings. The rivalry between the Packers and Minnesota Vikings began in 1961, similar to their other divisional rivalries. It is also considered to be one of the most intense rivalries in the NFL due to the intensity of most of the matchups over the years. As is the case with many of their respective states' college teams sharing a rivalry, Minnesota and Wisconsin have a rivalry in multiple sports, seen between the Big Ten rivals, the University of Wisconsin and University of Minnesota. Events such as Randy Moss mooning the Green Bay crowd in the first playoff game between these two teams, won by the Vikings, and former Packer great Brett Favre's move to the Vikings have created more resentment between these teams. The Packers lead the all-time series 66-30-3, despite the two teams splitting their two playoff contests. Detroit Lions. The Packers' rivalry with the Detroit Lions has been another one of the oldest regular matchups in the NFL. They first met in 1930 when the Lions were known as the Portsmouth Spartans and based in Portsmouth, Ohio. The team eventually moved to Detroit for the 1934 season. The Lions and Packers have been divisional rivals since 1933 and have always met at least twice a season since 1932, without any canceled games between both rivals. The Packers lead the series 106-78-7 as of the end of the 2024 season, the first time in NFL history that a team has recorded 100 wins over an opponent. Conference. Dallas Cowboys. The rivalry between the Packers and the Dallas Cowboys has resulted in several notable games in league history, including the Ice Bowl and other games impacting the playoff race. The rivalry heated up during the 2010s, with several of their games impacting the NFC playoff race during that decade. During the Brett Favre era in Green Bay, the Cowboys dominated the rivalry, going 9-2, including 9-0 in Dallas, against the Packers when Favre was the quarterback. However, in the Aaron Rodgers era from 2008 to 2022, the Packers have dominated the rivalry, as Rodgers had an 8-2 record against the Cowboys with Green Bay, including a perfect 3-0 record in Dallas. The Packers lead the all-time series 22-17. The Packers lead 5-4 in the playoffs, with the last playoff match taking place in January 2024 at AT&T Stadium in the wild card round with a 48-32 Packers win. San Francisco 49ers. The rivalry between the Packers and the San Francisco 49ers ignited during the 1990s, with the two teams facing each other in 4 consecutive playoff games. The Packers won 4 of 5 playoff games against the 49ers with Brett Favre as quarterback, with 4 of those games pitting Favre against the 49ers Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young. Since 2012, the 49ers have defeated the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers 4 times in the playoffs. The Packers currently lead the series 39-34-1, but the 49ers have won the last 4 postseason meetings to take a 6-4 lead. Seattle Seahawks. Following Seattle's relocation to the NFC in 2002, the Packers have faced the Seattle Seahawks multiple times in the playoffs, developing an intense rivalry as well. Some notable moments include the club's first playoffs meetings in 2003, in which Seahawks quarterback Matt Hasselbeck threw a game-losing pick six in overtime after guaranteeing a game-winning drive. The Fail Mary and Russell Wilson overcoming 4 interceptions and a 16-0 Packers lead Seattle to a 28-22 overtime win to advance to Super Bowl 49. As of the 2023 season, the Packers lead the all-time series 16-9. New York Giants. The series between the Packers and the New York Giants has been one of the oldest regular matchups in the league, as the two teams first met in 1928. The two teams have played since 1970 in the National Football Conference, and they play each other in the regular season either every 3 years or depending on its NFC division placement and in the postseason. The Packers lead the all-time series 34-28-2 and postseason series 5-3. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Packers were division rivals from 1977 to 2002, when both were in the NFC Central Division. The teams have played several notable games, including a Snow Bowl game in 1985, a playoff game in 1998, and the NFC Championship game in 2021. As of the 2024 season, the Packers lead the series 34-24-1. Stadium history. After their early seasons at Bellevue Park and Hagermeister Park, the Packers played home games in City Stadium from 1925 to 1956. The team won its first 6 NFL championships there. By the 1950s, the wooden 25,000-seat arena was considered outmoded. The NFL threatened to move the franchise to Milwaukee full-time unless it got a better stadium. The city responded by building a new 32,150-seat city stadium for the team, the first built exclusively for an NFL team, which opened in time for the 1957 season. It was renamed Lambeau Field in 1965 to honor Curly Lambeau, who had died earlier in the year. Expanded 7 times before the end of the 1990s, Lambeau Field capacity reached 60,890. In 2003, it was extensively renovated to expand seating, modernize stadium facilities, and add an atrium area. Even with a current seating capacity of 72,928, ticket demand far outpaces supply, as all Packer games have been sold out since 1960. About 86,000 names are on the waiting list for season tickets. The Packers played part of their home slate in Milwaukee starting in 1933, including 2 to 3 home games each year in Milwaukee's County Stadium from 1953 to 1994. Indeed, County Stadium had been built partly to entice the Packers to move to Milwaukee full-time. The Packers worked to capture their growing fan base in Milwaukee and the larger crowds. By the 1960s, the threat of an American Football League franchise in Milwaukee prompted the Packers to stay, including scheduling a Western Conference Championship game in 1967. County Stadium was built primarily as a baseball stadium and made only the bare minimum adjustments to accommodate football. At its height, it only seated 56,000 people, just barely above the NFL minimum. Many of those seats were badly obstructed. The field was just barely large enough to fit a football field. Both teams shared the same sideline, separated by a piece of tape, and the end zones extended onto the warning track. By 1994, improvements and seating expansions at Lambeau, along with the Brewers preparing to campaign for their new stadium, prompted the Packers to play their full slate in Green Bay for the first time in 62 years. Former season ticket holders for the Milwaukee package continue to receive preference for one preseason and the second and fifth regular season games at Lambeau Field each season, along with playoff games through a lottery under the, quote, gold package plan. The Packers have 3 practice facilities across the street from Lambeau Field in Ashwaubenon? Sorry, folks, I butchered that. Wisconsin. The Don Hutson Center, an indoor facility, Ray Nitschke Field, an outdoor field with artificial field turf, and Clark Hinkle Field, an outdoor field with natural grass. The Packers Pro Shop has been the official retail store of the Packers since 1989. The primary retail store is located at Lambeau Field, having been expanded numerous times since it opened. The Pro Shop reported sales of over $7 million in 2015. Statistics and records. Season-by-season results. This is a partial list of the Packers' last 5 completed season. For the full season-by-season franchise list, see List of Green Bay Packers seasons. All right. Season 2019. All right. 2019. Finished first with 13 wins, 3 losses. 2020, 13 wins, 3 losses. 2021, 13 wins, 4 losses. They lost the divisional playoffs to the 49ers. 2022, 8 wins, 9 losses. 2023, 9 wins, 8 losses. 2024, 11 wins, 6 losses. And they lost the wild card playoffs at the Eagles 10-22. Records. Passing by Brett Favre, 61,655 passing yards. Rushing, Amon Green, 8,322 rushing yards. Receiving, Donald Driver, 10,137 receiving yards. Coaching wins, Curly Lambeau, 209 wins. All right. We're not going to go over all of their playoff records. They've got obviously quite a bit. Overall playoff record, 37-27. All right, championships. The Packers have been the league champions a record 13 times, topping their nearest rival, the Chicago Bears, by 4. The first 3 were decided by league standing, the next 6 by the NFL title game, and the last 4 by Super Bowl victories. The Packers are also the only team to win 3 consecutive NFL titles, having accomplished this twice, from 1929 to 1931 under Lambeau, and from 1965 to 1967 under Lombardi. Super Bowl championships. Starting in 1966, the NFL began holding the Super Bowl. The Packers have won 4 Super Bowls. In 1966 and 1967 under Vince Lombardi. In 1996 under Mike Holmgren. And 2010 under Mike McCarthy. NFL championships, pre-Super Bowl era. From 1933 to 1969, the NFL held a championship game to decide their champion. The Packers won 8 NFL championship games. From 1966 to 1969, the NFL championship game was followed by the Super Bowl. 1936, 1939, and 1944, they won under Curly Lambeau. 1961, 62, 65, 66, and 67 under Vince Lombardi. NFC championships. The Packers have won 3 NFC championship games with twice as many losses. NFC championships did not exist before the AFL-NFL merger in 1970. They won in 1996 and 1997 under Mike Holmgren and 2010 under Mike McCarthy. NFL championship by standings. From 1920 to 1932, the NFL championship was awarded based on standings with no championship game taking place. The Packers won 3 such championships. All of them under Curly Lambeau in 1929, 1930, and 1931. Division championships. The Packers have won 21 divisional championships. Gonna skip reading all of that. This is the current roster. I'm not going to read this. Obviously, this is Wikipedia. This can be updated at any time. So, for current stats, go ahead and check the actual article at the time that you're watching this. All right, Pro Football Hall of Fame members. The Packers have the second most members in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with 30, 25 of which were inducted as Packers. They trail only the Chicago Bears with 37 Hall of Famers, 30 of which were inducted as Bears. All right, in the Hall of Fame, they have Herb Adderley as a cornerback, Leroy Butler as a safety, Tony Canadillo as halfback, Willie Davis as defensive end, Bobby Dillon as safety, Brett Favre, quarterback, Forrest Gregg as offensive tackle, Ted Hendricks as linebacker, Arnie Herber as quarterback, Clark Hinkle as fullback, Paul Hornung, halfback, Cal Hubbard, offensive tackle, Don Hudson as an end, Henry Jordan as a defensive tackle, Jerry Kramer as a guard, Earl Lambeau as halfback and coach, James Lofton as wide receiver, Johnny Blood McNally as halfback, Mike Michalski as offensive guard, Ray Nitschke as linebacker, Jim Ringo as center, Dave Robinson as linebacker, Sterling Sharp, wide receiver, Brett Starr, quarterback, Jim Taylor, fullback, Reggie White, defensive end, Willie Wood as safety, Charles Woodson as cornerback. They also have 2 coaches and executives, Vince Lombardi as coach and Ron Wolf as general manager. Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame. Many Packers players and coaches are also enshrined in the Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame. In 2018, Ron Wolf, the most recent Packers contributor to be honored, was inducted. Retired numbers. In nearly 9 decades of Packer footballs, the Packers have formally retired 6 numbers. All 6 Packers are members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and their numbers and names are displayed on the green facade of Lambeau Field North End Zone, as well as in the Lambeau Field atrium. Number 3, Tony Canadillo. Number 4, Brett Favre. Number 14, Don Hutson. Number 15, Brett Starr. Number 66, Ray Nitschke. And number 92, Reggie White. Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. The Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame was the first Hall of Fame built to honor a single professional American football team. John P. Holloway, a Brown County administrator and arena director, and William L. Brault, a Green Bay restaurateur and Packers fan, co-founded the Packer Hall of Fame Museum in 1966. As of 2019, the Packers Hall of Fame has inducted 162 people, 24 of whom have been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Notable coaches. We've got current staff. Again, go look at the article. Head coaches. Earl Lambeau, 1919 to 1949. Gene Ronzani, 1950 to 1953. Hugh DeVore and Ray Scooter McLean in 1953. Lyle Blackburn, 1954 to 1957. Ray Scooter McLean, 1958. Vince Lombardi, 1959 to 1967. Phil Bankston, 1968 to 1970. Dan Devine, 1971 to 1974. Bart Starr, 1975 to 1983. Forrest Gregg, 1984 to 1987. Lindy Infante, 1988 to 1991. Mike Holmgren, 1992 to 1998. Ray Rhodes, 1999. Mike Sherman, 2000 to 2005. Mike McCarthy, 2006 to 2018. Joe Philbin, 2018. Matt LaFleur, 2019 to present. Media. The Packers are unique in having their market area cover 2 media markets, both Green Bay and Milwaukee. NFL blackout restrictions for the team apply within both areas. However, Packer games have not been blacked out locally since 1972. The last year, home game telecasts were prohibited regardless of sellout status, due to strong home attendance and popularity. As mentioned above, every Packers home game, preseason, regular season, and playoffs, has been sold out since 1960. Radio. The flagship station of the Packers radio network is iHeartMedia's WRNW 97.3 in Milwaukee. Formerly, Good Karma Brands, WTMJ in Milwaukee, served as the flagship station and had broadcast the team's games since 1929, producing the games until the end of the 2018 season, when the team brought their broadcast operations in-house. Thus, the personnel is directly employed by the team. WTMJ's relationship with the team was the longest lived between a radio station and an NFL team, and the only rights deal in American professional sports where a station outside of the team's main metro area is the radio flagship, as WTMJ's signal is a city grade across eastern Wisconsin. Games air in Green Bay on WTAQ 1360 97.5 and WIXX FM 101.1 and WYDR 94.3 in Appleton and the Fox cities. Wayne Larrivee is the play-by-play announcer and Larry McCarron is the color analyst. Larrivee joined the team after many years as the Chicago Bears announcer. Jim Irwin and Max McGee were the longtime radio announcers before Larrivee and McCarron. When victory is assured for the Packers, either a game-winning touchdown, interception, or a crucial fourth down defensive stop, Larrivee's trademark declaration of, quote, "and there is your dagger," unquote, signifies the event. On October 27, 2021, the Packers announced that it would end its longtime association with WTMJ at the end of the season, with WRNW becoming the team's Milwaukee radio affiliate in 2022. Television. The TV rights for preseason games not nationally broadcast are held by EW Scripps Company-owned television stations WGBA TV in Green Bay and WTMJ TV Channel 4 in Milwaukee. The game broadcasts are distributed to 19 further TV stations in Wisconsin, Michigan, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, Missouri, and Alaska, as well as Spanish language WYTULD Telemundo Wisconsin in Milwaukee. Also broadcast on its sister station WEMEI in Green Bay, usually an English language MeTV station. The deal marked a change in affiliate in Green Bay from WFRV TV. In the wake of the 2012 deal, McCarron resigned his duties as sports director of WFRV to move to WTMG WGBA as a Packers analyst, becoming WGBA's official sports director on April 1, 2013. McCarron left WGBA in 2015 and became a team employee. Spectrum News 1 also rebroadcast team programming, including the team's 2 programs aired across the preseason network on weeknights before prime: Packers Live and the Matt LaFleur Show, respectively. The team's intra-squad Lambeau scrimmage at the beginning of the season, marketed as Packers Family Night, was produced for over a decade by WLUK TV in Green Bay and broadcast by the state's Fox affiliates through the 2016 season. In 2017, Scripps and the Packers Television Network began to originate the Packers Family Night broadcast. Preseason television games are announced by Kevin Harlan, son of former Packers president Bob Harlan, and color commentator Rich Gannon. Regular season and postseason games are not aired on broadcast network. Regular season and postseason games not aired on broadcast network are simulcast on broadcast stations in the Green Bay and Milwaukee markets. In popular culture, on the television sitcom show That 70s Show, in Season 7, Episode 14, Donna Pinciotti gives the gang and longtime Packers fan Red Foreman, a longtime Packers fan, 6 free tickets to Lambeau Field for a Bears-Packers game. Eric, who has no interest in football himself, including not knowing knowing Packers lore, wears a Walter Payton jersey to the game, with Packers fans teasing and booing him for doing so. In the Season 8 finale, Red declines to move to Florida after Stephen Hyde acquires a season ticket package for him. In 2015, 5 members of the Packers, David Bakhtiari, Don Barclay, TJ Lang, Clay Matthews, and Josh Sitton, made an appearance as an a cappella group in the musical comedy Pitch Perfect 2. Aaron Rodgers' brother Jordan also appeared. That same year, Rodgers himself appeared in an episode of the sketch comedies television series Key and Peele, along with Ha Ha Clinton Dix. In the television series Danny Phantom, the main antagonist, Vlad Masters Vlad Plasmius, is a Packers fanatic. His prized possession is a football autographed by Ray Nitschke, and his dream is to own the team. In the 1998 film There's Something About Mary, Mary, played by actress Cameron Diaz, consistently talks about her boyfriend, Brett. It is revealed toward the end of the film that Brett is then Packers quarterback Brett Favre. All right, there you've got your Green Bay Packers. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss any future videos coming out. But as always, drop a comment down below and let us know what you'd like us to cover soon. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.